Dracula sleeps in this coffin, but rises every night at sunset. Chick is right. This is awful silly stuff.
The nation's top comics, Abbott and Costello. Petrified, but hilariously. Plus the dangerous and terrifying Wolfman, played by Lon Chaney. Plus that fiend out of a nightmare, the vampire Batman, Count Dracula, played by Bela Lugosi. Plus the most dreaded creature of them all, the Frankenstein monster, played by Glenn Strange.
Alright guys, here we are. The movie that changed my life, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, 1948, starring Bud Abbott, Lou Costello, Lon Chaney Jr. is the Wolfman, Bela Lugosi, the original Count Dracula, Glenn Strange as the monster, Frankenstein's monster, Lenore Aubert as Sandra Mornay, Jane Randolph as Joan Raymond, the insurance investigator, Frank Ferguson as McDougal, and Charles Bradstreet as Dr. Stevens. The world of freight handlers Wilbur Gray and Chick Young is turned upside down when the remains of the Frankenstein monster and Dracula arrive from Europe to be used in the House of Horrors. Not to be confused with that show. Dracula awakens and escapes with the weakened monster, who he plans to re-energize with a new brain. Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, arrives from London in an attempt to thwart Dracula. Dracula's reluctant aide is the beautiful Sandra Mornay. Her reluctance is dispatched by Dracula's bike. Dracula and Sandra abduct Wilbur for his brain and recharge the monster in preparation for the operation. Chick and Talbot attempt to find and free Wilbur, but when the full moon rises, all hell breaks. They wrote that in this movie. All hell breaks loose with the Wolfman, and these motherfuckers go nuts. And an all running yeah, they really wrote that. And an all running rampant. Hey, I mean, why stop there, right? So, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Where do you begin? Jamie, who is in the opening scene of this movie?
Larry Talbot, thank you. I was stumbling over my words. Yes, and I was watching to see if he would grab his hair while he was... Which I didn't see him do in this movie. I didn't. If he did, I missed it, but I was trying to pay attention to see if he ever grabbed his hair, and I didn't notice that. That right off, though, I think what I love about these movies is that, at least in the first couple, and then it sort of changes as you go down the line, but you get this really cute little opening animation when the opening credits, and they have the two caskets, like the Abbott casket and the Costello casket, and the little Costello casket is like short and fat, and so it's like a fat skit.
Fat skit.
I love those little opening because it starts with the classic Universal logo, and then the dun dun dun, the classic Universal music, and then it switches to this cute little animation. So right even from the very beginning, you get a melding of the classic Universal stuff and the Abbott and Costello stuff, which I enjoyed. And then as soon as Larry hits the screen, he's my favorite. So I'm just like, I was so excited, and I love that about this movie is that this is like, maybe they didn't realize they were going to make this many, and I think that's probably true because they pretty much blew their wad in the first one. You had all the big ones, in like the three major big daddies in this first film, which was really awesome.
Yeah, they did this a lot. It was called the Monster Rally. They always had Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman. It was never as fulfilling because the Dracula was played by John Carradine. He did good. He has a powerful voice and all that and a lot of presence. But, I don't know, man. You just always wish Bela Lugosi was Dracula at the time. So, this actually got it right. They hired him under protest. They didn't want Lugosi again, believe it or not. And
what?
They had
Why would you not want him? He is fucking Dracula. Wow.
They didn't, man.
Nobody can stand there with their cape in front of the face quite like he does. Except when Costello is doing his impression, which is so cute. When he's just he's standing there like this, and then the monster's walking like this. And
Yes, Master. He thinks I'm Dracula. Yeah, that's what you say when you tricked a gigantic monster, a lumbering monster. He thinks I'm Dracula. Okay, because that's important to point that out right now, right? And not just continue to trick him. Ryan, you're a fan of the meta horror, like, Scream and Cabin in the Woods and stuff?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
So, how amazing is it that in 1948 they made the first meta horror movie, like literally saying it's like Dracula's legend and they're in a house of horror. They're like referencing them as if they were character. But here's the weird thing: they're almost not, right? Because they said the remains of the original.
Right, they were saying these are the actual remains of Dracula. This is the actual Frankenstein's monster.
Right, so I guess it's not really meta, right?
No, it's not meta, at least. No.
They're referencing them, but in a real way, I guess.
Right, this is honestly supposed to take place in that world of the Universal monsters.
See, I like the fact that they have the little placards in there, that have the history of what these creatures are, and they are acknowledging that these are historical figures, and because it always bugs me when, like, say for instance, take the Munsters. Okay, in all the years of watching the Munsters, everyone freaks out when they see Herman Munster. Not one person ever said, "Oh my God, it's Frankenstein's monster."
Right.
No one ever made that connection. And I'm like, you have to know. You have to know what he looks like. Do you not get what he looks like? But they completely ignored the whole universal world and that had even taken place. And that always irritated me as a kid because I'm like, that's Frankenstein's monster. That's what he looks like. But I like that in these movies they're like, yes, this is the story of Dracula and he really existed and these are his remains. And so they grounded it in some historical elements and then took it from there, which I thought was a really nice thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of people, like Ryan said, this is part of the universal world. A lot of people argue it's not. And one of the reasons they do is there's timeline problems, there's continuity problems. The last Universal horror movie was, with these guys, is House of Dracula. And at the end of House of Dracula, Lon Chaney gets shot with a silver bullet. Dracula gets, sunlight exposure and turns into a skeleton and dies. And the Frankenstein monster dies for the 50th time. So there's no actual explanation to how they even are here. In all the other movies, they kind of except for the one. What was the one where the Wolfman actually got cured of being a werewolf through surgery? And then he was a werewolf in the next one again.
Oh, maybe this takes place before the last movie.
Right.
Well, 40 years later, we've come. They didn't go any further. Look at the Friday and the Halloween franchises.
Yeah, that's very true.
There's no continuity there either. Same old shit.
They attempted it, just not here. They just said we're not even going to explain this. They're all here, and that's just the way it is. So that's some people have a problem putting them together for that reason. The movie starts off where they go to the House of Horror, and they're delivering these two crates. They're opening the crates, and Dracula gets out of one of them. Abbott goes to get the other crate, and he hypnotizes Costello and, hides from Abbott and stuff like that. Like, that has to be one of the greatest introductions to any...
I think the introduction of Dracula in this film, him coming out of the coffin and him sneaking around, I think it was more intimidating in this than it ever was in the original Dracula, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. In the original Dracula, you get to thrill as he walks upstairs for 5 minutes at a time. I personally prefer the Spanish version of Dracula to the one that we know as the Universal Dracula, just because in the original film, not a whole lot happens, and it's not all that scary. But I think there are moments here where it could, I mean, and it's a lot of it is Costello's reaction, which is so classic. And this runs throughout. He's always the one to see the monster. And then when he tries to, it's like Snuffleupagus, when he tries to prove that the monster exists and Abbott comes back, there's no monster. And so he looks like an idiot. When the candle moves and he's like, the candle moved. And then he's like, does it look like it's moving to you? He's like, well, no, but it did.
And not only that, he always seemed to get the hot chicks. What's that about?
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, he is adorable. I always had a little bit of a crush on Lou Costello because he's so cute. He's got this baby face, and he just looks like a really congenial guy. And
it's fortunate you're on the skeleton crew because he's a skeleton at this point.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh-oh. That's fighting words for Alex. Yeah.
What the fuck is this?
One thing I love about this with the introduction is when Dracula finally does get out of the coffin, because we have that whole play for several minutes where he's like the coffin creaks open, his hand comes out, Costello sees the hand, and then he does his little freak out thing, and then the coffin closes again, but when he finally does get out, and you see him sort of Dracula, it's funny to me because he doesn't care if Costello sees him, but then when he sees Abbott coming, he sort of starts to sneak toward the back, and I'm thinking, how does he not see him walking away when Abbott walks in? How do you not see that guy right there? He's walking right there. I'm looking at him, but he didn't see him. And then he sort of does that thing where he's hiding with his cape over his face in the corner until Abbott goes away, and then he comes back when Costello is alone.
Right.
And
I got the impression is from jump, the second he saw him, the second he came out of the coffin, he was like, this is the guy whose brain I'm putting in the monster.
No, he didn't know, though, because remember, later on, he goes, oh, this is Wilbur. I must say I approve very highly of your choice. Like, he just realized Costello's an idiot, but he didn't realize, wow, we actually got him? Perfect. That is what he realized along the way.
And I love that their lines still, to me, I mean, like I said, I was laughing like a goon from the very beginning, like before we even get to the House of Horrors, when they're talking about the delivery that's coming and all of that. And then he's talking to this woman and he's like, frankly, I don't get, or no, she's like, frankly, I don't get it. He's like, frankly, you never will. I'm laughing hysterically because it's like, it's not a new joke, but his delivery is so funny that it's just like, even if you know the joke, it's still funny.
Right. And even the physical comedy with the whole package is standing up, this whole crate is standing up all huge, and him climbing on top of this thing and rocking to make it knock over. Dude, I was rolling, drinking a beer, I spit it at my screen.
Yeah, that was a great scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, and how Abbott thinks this is perfectly normal, that a guy goes to the top of a crate, ties a knot on a handle, and just stand there while I pull it down. Like, he's just as fucked up as Costello, but it's like he's unaware of that idea.
Right, and they finally pull it down, it just smashes on the ground, and they look right at the guy, okay, you want us to deliver it?
No, you idiot. You're going to take that to my House of Horrors, because if that's the way you handle things, I'm going to have it.
And I'm going to be standing there when you unpack it, and if it's damaged at all, then blah, blah, blah.
Hey, why was Dracula hiding? I wanted to bring that up while we were talking about it. Why would it, when the candle, the whole thing with the coffin and Lou and then Bud and going back and forth, why was Dracula, why would he come out and then hide again? If he's Dracula, why would he just come out and fucking kill him right away?
Well, it'd be one of those things. Number one, comedy. Number two, put yourself in Dracula's shoes. Who knows how long he was sitting in that coffin? What's the world like now? Who knows?
Yeah,
you gotta learn your surroundings before you go all fucking crazy.
Yeah, I can buy that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. He re-energizes the monster with this little kind of thing he puts on the bolts on his neck. He gets up. The monster's like half fucking spaced out.
What is up with that? Did he have he had some sort of portable electric? I don't even know. I want one of those now. What is it?
Right. Charge my fucking cell phone halfway through the day.
What logic did they write that in with? But it's just it's crazy. So they both escape the House of Horror, and obviously McDougal thinks, those are exhibits. He's wondering where the fuck they are. And no, they're gone, dude. So these two assholes get locked up. They go to jail. We don't really see that. The next day, they're in a, I guess, hotel of some, or unless it's their house, or I don't know how it could be because the Wolfman shows up and takes the room across the hall. I don't know.
Hey, they live in the hotel. That's just...
Oh, okay.
that is where they live, but it just happens to be a hotel.
Oh, they live there. Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that, and they did that in this movie and in others. I was always a little bit unaware of their living, their situation. Sometimes I couldn't tell if it was a hotel, an apartment, and if they lived there or not. That seemed to be a recurring thing in the series.
It is interesting. Like, you never really know where they are, how they got where they are in life. They look like two kind of con artists or something who are always trying to get over.
I kind of get the impression that they're transient. You know, that they probably move around a lot. They have a lot of different jobs. They, you know, and they're always together. So they're just like two buddies who they find a place, they get a job, they live in a hotel, and they probably don't stay there for very long. As it turns out, they probably get fired a lot. Because let's face it, they fuck up a lot.
Yeah, right. I wonder why, right?
But I do enjoy in this series that they stop eventually giving them names and just say, okay, you're Abbott, you're Costello. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the Mummy, they just say straight, and they even say, Bud and yeah, right. One says Bud Alexander and Louis Francis.
Right, and then, you know, he gets scared and he starts screaming Abbott. You know what I mean?
Hey, Abbott! You actually get the classic, hey, Abbott! Which, you know, in the previous films, you get chick, or whatever the appropriate name is. You know, with the we talk about that when we get to the Mummy. But
yeah, the Mummy. Speaking of the Mummy, in that movie, they're credited as having different names, but they call themselves Bud and Lou on the screen.
Right, exactly.
Isn't that weird? Freddie something and right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're Pete Patterson and Frankie Franklin.
Yeah,
in the credits, but they never once use those names within the film. It's always, you know, Bud and Abbott and Lou and
right, because we as the viewer, we are not going to think of them as anything else. It doesn't matter. Right. So I guess at that point they were just like, fuck that. We are Abbott and Costello.
Well, one reason they might have done that's their last movie with Universal. So they probably said, fuck it, let's just go out with their name. Who gives a shit?
That's what I was going to say, too, is that maybe they were originally supposed to have those character names, and then they just said, you know what, we don't give a shit anymore. This is our last movie. Fuck it.
Yep.
You know? I don't know.
That's what I think.
You know what? When they did Invisible Man, their names were Bud and Lou in the credits, though.
Well, here's the difference. Their names were Bud Alexander and Louis Francis, and that's their actual middle names.
Right.
Instead of their last names. Yeah.
Interesting.
So they kind of, they play with their names a little bit in these movies.
Tubby and Slim.
That's my favorite.
They said, let's just go with what we look like.
That's good.
So the Wolfman shows up and he says, you know, I follow Dracula all the way from Europe because I know he's going to revive the Frankenstein monster and I'm here to stop him.
How does he know this? I've always wondered this. I've seen this movie about 20 times and I'm like, okay, you're the Wolfman, and all of a sudden you're on a personal crusade to stop Dracula for giving a mind to the Frankenstein monster so they could dominate the world.
They're going to rule the country and the state. Reference to our old October shows.
Awesome. Yeah, I think he's a good guy. I think it goes back to us having to be sympathetic with the Larry Talbot character.
Right, which is why he's my favorite. He's always been my favorite.
Right.
Well, the answer will most likely be that, you know, he's already been in 2 movies with these guys. He's seen their antics and bullshit that they go through. He's right there, right in the lab with them, and he knows what the monster is capable of, what it does, how it's pretty much evil, and he keeps telling people, you know, they're focusing on the monster, not me, and all they do is this and that. So I don't know. Maybe he's just got tired of always just wanting to kill himself, and he felt there was a greater good, or a better reason to be alive, I guess, and to stop these guys. And I don't know. I guess he's just in that circle. So that's how he knows. I don't really know. They never really explain how he knows that.
Little did he know he was going to have the best costume at the masquerade ball.
Right.
The most authentic costume.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've got something to say about that scene. Okay. Okay, he's telling everybody at this thing, okay, in a half an hour, the moon is going to rise, and you got to chain me up. You got to chain me up or lock me away. And then everybody goes about on their adventures and stuff, and he doesn't even bother to try to lock himself up. He doesn't do anything. He's just running around in the middle of this party to conveniently change.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So I guess that counts as a what the fuck moment.
Oh, it is a what the fuck moment. There's a lot of them in a row.
Yeah.
There's a lot. For some reason, I don't know what the fuck happened, but in this movie, like, 10 what the fuck things happen in a row. One of them is, before they even go to that party, that insurance investigator goes to the castle with them, to get Sandra to go. And she fucking finds the secrets of life and death in Sandra's bedroom just randomly. Like, what the fuck? You happen to find the most important piece of information just by powdering your nose and hanging out and, like, looking to see if she's looking at you and just going to a drawer. It's not in the laboratory. It's not with Dracula in the dungeon area.
No, it's in her panty drawer.
Right, exactly. Like, what the fuck is that? Number 2. And you're all going to go, yes! Why do we see Dracula in the mirror?
The fucking mirror.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing. And I was like, wait. That's so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why did they do that? They none to gain by doing that.
Here's what disappoints me. What's his name? Bela Lugosi is, like, way into having been Dracula. He's way into it. He knows every line. That's anytime anybody said, "Hey, where should I take my girlfriend to see?" "Oh, you should take him to see Dracula. It's very romantic." And he always did that funny stuff in interviews and stuff. And this fucking guy is there. He doesn't say, "Well, guys, why do you have me in front of a mirror? I don't understand what we're doing. Don't you know I cannot be seen in the mirror? What are we doing?"
Wasn't Bela Lugosi having, like, serious substance problems towards certain parts of his life? Like, he was a violent drunk?
No, that's Lon Chaney Jr. Lugosi was a morphine addict, I believe.
Right. Well, he was on morphine, so he just didn't think about it.
Maybe, right? Yeah, but even Kane Hodder, fuck, even that guy was, hey, Jason wouldn't kick a dog. I'm not going to do that.
It's because Kane Hodder thinks he is Jason.
Right.
Well, this guy thinks he's a fucking Dracula. No offense.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, shit, he got buried wearing the fucking cowl.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. He probably said, "Guys, this makes no sense. Don't you know the story of my..." And like, shut the fuck up. You're lucky you're here. They didn't even want you. So, who knows what the fuck happened.
Or he thought, you know what, I brought this monster back to life with some magical electronic thing. He's just holding it up to his bolts. I guess I have a reflection.
Yeah, exactly. And the other fucking crazy thing, like Ryan said about, like, why is the Wolfman even hanging out with people at a costume party that you apparently have to take a boat to? He's there, and McDougal gets bitten by somebody, a wolf or someone wearing a wolf's mask. And they believe it's, Abbott, because he has a wolf's mask. So they hunt Lou and Costello, because he's his accomplice. They bump into the wolf, Costello bumps into the Wolfman, and he's acting fucking clumsy as shit, like he was drinking all night, tripping over everything, getting caught in trees and vines and everything. Right. Costello's like, "Will you stop? Take that mask off," punching him in his face, kicking him in his ass. It's like, what the fuck? Like, this is so out of character, and I'm not even sure that Costello would have punched Abbott.
That's what I was going to say. Right. He's always been on the receiving end, because Abbott was the Mo. Abbott was the one who would beat his ass and slap him over the head and kick him in the ass and whatever. And Costello never did that. He always was he took the brunt of all that. And so when I'm watching that, I'm like, you wouldn't do that if it really was him. What are you doing?
I didn't think about, I didn't know the characters at the time, so that's why I didn't think about that. But yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah. It's just so out of character, but it's funny because it really is funny. It's really, this movie, although they did a great job of playing it authentic and everyone being straight with what they were always, even though they merged, they did bend some stuff to make it funny. Just like we said in the beginning with Dracula and all the shit that he could have just avoided and bypassed. No, it's funnier if we do this, But with the meta thing I was talking about, even at the costume party when he's like, "That is Count Dracula," and he's like, "Oh, my costume perhaps," and he goes, "No," he says, "You're the real thing." That's not meta? You think he's still just referring to the... Because, like, people dress up as Dracula while Dracula's still here?
Well, they probably don't know he's still there. They probably think that he was a killer in the past and he's gone. Or maybe they just didn't assumed he was human, didn't think that he was supernatural. Like someone dressing up as, like, Jack the Ripper now or Ed Gein or some shit like that.
Right.
Except,
right.
I mean, but I think you have a point, Alex, in that people came to recognize that Dracula with the cape and everything. They came to recognize that Dracula because of the Bela Lugosi Dracula. So before that, it was, I mean, we had Nosferatu, who he didn't look anything like that. So I mean, that was the incarnation of Dracula that people became to accept as Dracula because of him. So you'd think if they recognize that character as Dracula, then they must be aware of the Dracula film. Does that make any sense?
Right.
Right. Yeah, I think it skates the line between both of them. You know what I mean? It skates the line between this being slightly meta to this is the same universe.
Right. That's amazing, Jamie. I didn't realize that they could only know that from the movie.
Well, yeah, well, because there was that's that's how people came to know Dracula to look like that. So.
Amazing. Holy shit, we crossed like another dimension right now.
Well, that's where all their information has come from.
Right.
Otherwise, why would they know anything about him? So, yeah.
How many full moons do you think there are in this movie? That's in my notes because I don't.
Well,
think
he
the
had to
full
go
moon...
when he was talking to him the first night because the moon was full and he was starting to change.
Right.
But that was in Europe, so that's past one of them. Now we're in America.
Oh, fuck.
And then in America, there's like 7 of them. It just keeps coming. You gotta lock me up again. I still need to be locked up.
Oh shit! This guy can't go one fucking scene without becoming a werewolf. That is classic.
Well, this is the same movie where a guy is going to show up to pick up a woman for a party with another date.
I love it.
That's because Costello's a pimp.
He's like, hey, she's coming with us. Is that okay? Well, not really. No, I didn't want.
Oh, she's chick's date. The best part was when Sandra goes, I have a headache, I can't go. And he goes, well, there goes your date. To Abbott. He's like, holy shit.
How come they went to the castle that time? And he's been dating this girl for some amount of time, right? Mm-hmm. And he acted as if it was the first time he went to her house. Don't you think before they would have been dating, that he would have picked her up before?
Not necessarily, because they don't really mention a time frame. Maybe he's just been with her a week or so, but at the same time, she was just trying to get him for that purpose, so it wasn't genuine anyway. She was probably just met him at a fucking coffee shop or whatever. You made me think about something. Right, exactly.
That's true. Yeah,
it is so smart. That's what she said.
They seem pretty cozy. I guess I just bought into that, that they had been established for some amount of time.
Well,
but
see, as we will learn later in Jekyll and Hyde, you only have to know someone for 5 minutes before you want to smash face with them. And
this is true.
And be in the same room with them while you're changing clothes.
Right.
So,
and marry him the next day.
Marry him the next day.
Another thing, Dracula goes to the castle, okay, for the very first time. You see him, he turns into a little bat. That's excellent, okay. But the coffin and Frankenstein's monster show up there, and they're just laying on the side of the beach. There's no boat, there's no nothing, and he was a little bat. How the fuck did they get there?
You know what makes me crazy? Dracula driving a fucking boat and shit like that. Like, him operating equipment and machinery and laboratories and riding boats and pushing gigantic heavy stone doors. I just don't see that. I feel like he should have servants doing shit like that.
Right, he should. Every single person, he should have had an Igor, we'll say, is doing everything for him.
Renfield.
A Renfield, there you go.
What the fuck is he doing riding a boat? I just don't even know. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's so strange. Like, imagine Dracula driving a car. People complain that Lon Chaney Jr. was even in a car as the son of Dracula when in that movie. And can you imagine this Dracula would have driven?
Right.
It's just, do I put that in park or neutral? What does the end mean? How the fuck do I back up? Like, it's just so
Where's
weird
my
to me.
morphine?
Oh shit, it's almost out of gas. Where the fuck do I go to fill this up?
I wanted to, because you mentioned the bat transformation. I wanted to point out the Wolfman transformation. I really liked in this film. I think the dissolves were beautiful. Like, they did, they really did pay attention to detail. and make it a smooth transformation. I was impressed with that.
Yeah, the dissolves in this look better than they did in the actual Wolfman
I
movie.
think so too. But then later on, when we get to Jekyll and Hyde, not so much. But
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. Well, here's the thing. Bud Westmore did the makeup of Wolfman in this movie, and in all the other ones, it was Jack Pierce. There's a big difference. He definitely looks different. It doesn't look as good as the Wolfman in all the other movies. That looked way better than this one. But the transformation was smooth here. So it still works in that respect. And it looked close enough to the other one. It just didn't have that much detail. And that was the point of firing Jack Pierce and getting Westmore, because Westmore could get the makeup on in like 3 hours. And Jack Pierce took 6 hours. And actually 2 hours. And Pierce took 6, and they felt they didn't have that much time to waste. He got to speed it up. And the other guy did the foam latex rubber shit, and Pierce didn't. Everything was the fucking longest way to get there.
now, is that Westmore? I wonder, related to Mackenzie Westmore at all? And her father, the ones who do Face Off, the show. There's the special effects show Face Off, and the Westmores are. I don't know exactly how long their family has been in the special effects business, but at least 2 generations. So I'm wondering if there's any relation.
They should automatically win.
Right? Yep, by default. That's good though, Jamie. That didn't even occur to me with them.
Doesn't say in his personal life on Wikipedia.
They were good effects though, weren't they, all around?
No.
No,
Not at all.
you disagree with that? I thought they were good for the time this was made.
It had its moments.
I thought they were good. The bat flying looked fucking pretty realistic to me.
No, the bat looked like somebody was drawing it with an Etch-a-Sketch, dude.
No, it was a rubber bat. It was on strings, but you couldn't see the strings. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, that looked
When it was
fine, but the
flying.
actual transformation
No,
itself.
not the transformation part, but when the bat was flying around, flapping its wings, it looked better than a lot of movies would look now if they put a CG bat in there. I think it looks more realistic. The only time it looked real fake, the transformation was like a cartoon when he went from bat to Dracula.
Argento's Dracula.
Yeah.
Everything looks better than Argento's Dracula.
That's fighting words.
Yeah, well, no, I can admit that. But,
Jamie, you remember specifically the incredible effects of Son of Dracula, right? Mm-hmm. Amazing transformations.
Yeah.
That was before this movie, and this movie was a fucking way bigger deal than goddamn Son of Dracula, which went under the fucking radar. This movie is the biggest thing on the planet. Why are you hiring a Woody Woodpecker fucking artist to do the transformation? I don't understand this. It was literally the guy who drew Woody Woodpecker.
wow.
That explains a lot.
It certainly does. Jesus.
Wow.
Holy shit.
But at the same time, there was a comical edge to this, so they probably thought, people would find it charming in a way.
Yeah, I guess. You know?
Maybe I think it's more primitive times than it was, because I haven't been as versed in the Universal monster movies as everyone else has. But when I was watching it, that scene we were talking about before, when Costello was on the top of the box and they were doing that thing and they were going back and forth, that was great. That was done so well, and the candle sliding on Dracula's coffin, you couldn't see anything. So I mean, in my opinion, they did it really well. And then. Remember when he's talking to the girl and he sees the bats in her eyes?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It actually impressed me. I mean, I didn't see Son of Dracula, so I guess I don't have it to compare to. But for me, looking at a movie that's made in '48, I was impressed by the effects.
Now the bats in the eyes, that was amazing. Like I was just like, wow. I mean, that was really cool.
Made no sense, but it was great.
No, but it looked awesome.
I don't give a fuck if it made sense. That was badass. Now, Jamie, me and you, we like to do this. Now, in this movie, nobody ever meets a doctor named Frankenstein or a member of his family.
But he's also known as Frankenstein by that point as well. Just like, just like what you said about them. It's like the meta-knowledge. Just like now, anyone's going to say that. My daughter would see it at a thing, and if she knew what's that, that's Frankenstein. So even
that shit
back
makes
then,
me angry.
Yeah, I know. We all know that it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yes.
That is not Frankenstein!
What is your dad teaching you?
You got to teach that kid early, Dave.
I will. Right. Absolutely. I'm a bad example because I will teach her the difference. But, the average Joe's walking around, and even back then, around 1950, they probably called him Frankenstein too, even already at that point.
Oh, they did.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why they did it, and it's always going to be there. I think Abbott and Costello at the end when they were in the boat in the closing scene, they might have called it Frankenstein. Well, we don't have to see Dracula, and we're done dealing with Dracula and Frankenstein, I think they said. Or
no, I think they said monster, actually.
They said the monster.
Well, good for them. Props to them. Good.
The Frankenstein monster, Dracula, Wolfman, no one to frighten us anymore. And here's the other weird thing that doesn't make any sense. If you're really into these movies, when Frankenstein is talking, he's like, "Yes, master." Why isn't he talking in Igor's voice?
Right.
That's his voice now.
And here's another big what the fuck. How come at the end of this movie, they throw down fire on the dock and the monster walks into it? Isn't he afraid of fire? But now he wants to go fucking rave in the middle of it? Well,
He is kind of an idiot.
Shows, yeah, I know, but even in the other ones, fire went near him. He was like, "Arr!" He was scared, and now he's like, I just want to walk right in the middle of this. This would be great.
Yeah, even Dracula versus Frankenstein, he was afraid of fire, Alex. Shit.
Yeah, right. A fucking flashlight, he was running away.
Right.
And as far as the Igor's voice thing goes, I mean, we've said when we were talking about that movie that it doesn't make any sense that his voice would change just because he got a new brain. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. You would,
right. It's not like they
should
changed
have
his
the
voice
same
box.
voice he always had, but
Yeah, different accent, because his brain would still want to say it like Igor, but the voice would not match.
Right.
So
that's true. That's true.
Right.
No, they always did that. Every time, in every one of these movies, when they changed it, the voice did change. And it doesn't make sense. You're right. Except Young Frankenstein. That was actually Peter Boyle's voice.
Oh, yeah?
They actually got it right in Young Frankenstein. Yeah.
Look at that. A fucking goof gets it right, but nothing else. Yeah, and it's weird that you're talking about the dock scene. That monster was at, when he walked into the fire, that was actually Lon Chaney Jr. as Frankenstein.
Really?
What?
Yep, and when he threw Sandra Mornay out of the window of the laboratory, that was Lon Chaney Jr. because...
And that was fucking hilarious. Can I just tell you? Oh my God. He just throws her out the window. That's another time when I was just laughing like an idiot because I'm like, he just threw her ass out the window. I mean, just picked her up and threw her. It was...
That was hardcore shit, man. Because
hilarious.
Because anyone knows, anyone who watches Universal movies, they don't show shit, man. Like, every time Wolfman kills somebody, he just chokes them out or something, or bites their collar. You don't really see anything, and you're lucky if you even get that half the time.
Oh, and in this, he jumps out of a window onto Dracula and takes him down into the fucking ocean.
Yeah.
That was badass, dude.
And it's odd, that is the death of these guys, and meanwhile, that is not the means of death by either one of them.
Right.
They could just kind of get out of there. But
right? I thought it was an impressive scene when the Wolfman jumps and grabs the fucking bat. I thought it was cool. Scene. Yeah, I did. But you're right. They wouldn't lead to their demise ordinarily.
No. And it's funny because they have that fake splash effect on the water. Like the water's perfectly streaming, and all of a sudden you see this like manufactured fucking splash. It's still better than the one at the end of Ninja Turtles Part 3, though. So.
Oh, geez, there's no splash. Right.
He just evaporates into the water. Maybe he's a really great high diver. There's no splash. I don't know. But, yeah, so they a lot of stuff ensues after the party. Like I said, they hypnotize Costello and Abbott. They get him over to the island. Abbott falls to the floor. They get Costello to the island. They hold him as a prisoner. Larry Talbot as a human, back to normal, not a wolfman. I guess for 1 minute there wasn't a full moon. And Bud go over there to rescue Costello. And they get him out. They rescue this Professor Stevens and all that. They rescue Joan Raymond. And they're all ready to go. And Dracula hypnotizes Costello to come back once he realizes he escaped. Now, the weird part is they get him back, and they don't even question how he got out of there, where the fuck Stevens is, where the fuck the Joan Raymond is. They don't even, wonder. They just say, well, we got him back. Let's just start operating on him. We won't even lock the fucking door, because what could go wrong? They don't even wonder what happened, or who else is around, or what's going on.
They got shit to do. They don't have time for that.
Right.
Look, we got the little fat bastard. Let's go.
And then you get a classic scene. Bud and Larry go in there to rescue Costello, and as he's trying to unstrap him from the table, one of the most classic scenes ever, man. Larry Talbot starts looking out the window, another fucking full moon. And he goes, what are you looking at? Someone else coming after me? And he looks back, and he's the Wolfman now. Holy shit.
Fastest transformation ever.
Right.
We are exposing way too much. We should get out of this review. No, but it's great. And then you got a whole entire chaotic thing, chases through the house, shit like that. What do you guys think of that whole sequence of just chaotic chases and jokes and gags and nonsense?
That's classic Abbott and Costello right there. It's like a live-action version of Scooby-Doo, where they're like running from room to room. You know, like you always get that segment in Scooby-Doo where the music kicks in and you see them like crossing the hallway, going from room to room.
Right, they got their 70s porno music playing and then running around the house.
If you really look at it, it's mostly just people struggling and throwing flower pots at each other and shit like that. But no, it's great fun. I mean, you can't be cynical about this fucking movie, otherwise you're a total loser. There are scary scenes. Let's get to some of those scary scenes when they're doing the revolving door gag in the dungeon, or wall gag. There's a point where Costello sits on Frankenstein's lap and realizes his hand is there, and he's three hands. No, it's a different person's hand, and all that type of shit. He gets up and he runs, and the music kicks in, and Frankenstein's going after him, goes around the corner. All of a sudden, Dracula just stands up out of his coffin and looks at him, and that's fucking crazy. Like, when I was a kid, I was just lost in this. I was like, what the fuck? This is going crazy. And to me, that's really scary stuff. I don't know. Do you guys, like, how does it play to you?
Yeah, it's scary. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it could work that way. A lot of that, I think, is Costello's reaction. Like, he really sells it because he's scared shitless. And so, like,
right.
He just, if you're in it with the character, then you could totally get sucked into that.
Right, absolutely.
And, like, the real funny parts, let's talk about some of the best funny parts, that the girls always like Costello, whether it's...
Always, yeah.
Sandra likes him. Then all of a sudden, the fucking insurance inspector could have liked anybody, and then Abbott's like, I'm not doing anything. Oh, then they'll all feel lonely.
Dude, he must have a dick like a tree trunk.
Dude, it's crazy. They never like Abbott. And then, like, one of my funniest subtle moments, man, I fucking love this. Like, I don't know if you guys picked up on this. They said, all right, Larry Talbot says we have to search the place. All right, come on, let's just look around. So they go down this hallway, and they both open a door. So the camera shows Bud opening a closet, and he picks up a broom and looks at it, spins it around, and puts it back. Then Costello opens a door, and it's that fucking thing that leads down to the dungeon. And he closes the door because he's scared, and he goes, what's in there? And he goes,
broom closet.
Broom closet. And then Abbott looks back where he was because he knows he just had a broom in his hand. He goes, broom closet.
Because you're like, wait, there's not two broom closets.
Right. Exactly.
And I don't know what scene it is exactly. I don't recall. But there's one scene where Abbott's acting like kind of pissed off, and Costello looks at him, and he's like, I don't like when you act like that. Be like how I like you to be.
Yeah. That's it. This is how I like it.
It's just loaded with those quick one-liners, quick fucking...
He tells him to look at himself in the mirror, and he goes, why should I hurt my own feelings?
Yeah. Costello's depressed about something. What is he saying? He goes, I don't know how she can look me in the face with this. And then he goes, I don't know how she can look you in the face, period.
Oh, it's great. And I love how these guys, like, one of the charms about the movies, and it really kind of puts it in another world, honestly, is the way these guys dress. Like, Abbott and Costello always got these, like, nice suits on all the time with the ties and the hat. Like, they don't dress like fucking slobs, like T-shirts and jeans and sneakers. It's like, it takes you to a different place just looking at them.
Even bums, and I don't mean like hobos, but like even the people who didn't have a job still wore suits and ties and all. And by the way, Costello's tie was so cute and short and fat. It was like he always had this little short fat tie, and his pants are always yanked up to his armpits. But but yeah, like even everyone dressed that way back then. You know, everyone's walking around in suits with a fedora, and it didn't really matter if you worked on Wall Street or if you worked at the corner shop. You always wore suits and ties, or dress pants and ties, whether you wore a jacket or not. And I watched this, I'm like, God, men don't dress like that anymore. But then I think, how uncomfortable must that have been to dress like that all the time?
Yeah, and the heat and the fucking this and that. Like, oh my god. And they never have coats over it, like nothing. And the one thing I'm happy about is, everybody knows in the old Universal movies, by the time we get past Ghost of Frankenstein and then we're in the two House movies, Frankenstein is a fucking prop piece. He was just used for end rampages, and I'm really glad he was utilized throughout the whole movie here. He was still unhealthy and a little slow, a little dumb, but it was fulfilling to a fan of this type of shit. And one thing I really noticed is that Dracula is so far different from the Dracula of the original movie. Like, they're two completely different characters. The shit he does in Abbott and Costello is so far from what he did in the 31 movie, and this is 17 years later, by the way. Like, Lugosi's like 66 years old in this movie. Or 67. Oh, 66. He was 49 when he did Dracula.
Looks pretty good, considering.
Well, there was tons of makeup on him.
Well, obviously, but
yeah. So, but it's really weird because he's like, I've chartered a ship to take you to England tomorrow evening. And now he's like, what about the monster? I don't want to repeat Frankenstein's mistake and revive a vicious, unmanageable brute. This time the monster must have no will of his own, no fiendish intellect to oppose his master. And
well, everybody talks so fucking fast in this movie. That was the times. It's different from what I'm used to watching. When I went back and watched these, I found myself really having to stay into it and sometimes rewind because I missed something in the plot or I questioned something. Like, a lot more often than I would in a movie nowadays. I was like, what? They talk, their execution, there's so much going on, and they talk so damn fast. That's why Dracula, that's an example. He talks so slow in 31. Even in this movie, he's bouncing around. I guess it was just the times. They just talked fast.
He's on morphine now.
The previous statement about him walking upstairs for 5 solid minutes in the original. I think they just didn't have as much to do, so they're like, slow it down, And here they're like, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Because, I mean, these movies move at a clip. I mean, there is never a dull moment or never a moment where someone's just standing still or something is always happening.
Right.
Man, these script writers, they must have fucking sore-ass hands back then.
As the new guest in the dungeon, Ryan, how do you rate Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein out of 5 stars?
Oh, I've watched this so many times growing up. When I watch it, we could point out all these flaws in this film, but when I'm watching it, none of them really affect me. It's just the whole of what this thing is. I would honestly give this thing a 5-star rating because it just makes me feel that good when I'm watching it.
Yep, and it's so well done for a first outing in something like this. God damn, did you hit that out of the ballpark. Dave Z, how do you rate this? Oh, I'm interested in Dave Z because he first time ever.
Yeah, it's weird because this is what it is. This is the first Abbott and Costello I ever saw, and I have to say that it's like the cherry buzz because in my opinion, granted in a lot of series the first is the best, but this is the best of the series. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to go but down. But they don't go too far down. But
right.
This. What a perfect blend of fucking horror and comedy. It played like a horror movie in a lot of aspects, and it had just the right amount of comedy. It was a really good mix. Mm-hmm. And, there's what the fuck moments and whatnot, but whatever. I had a lot of fun with it. And, it was just my first introduction to this type of comedy with Costello and the impressions and the physical, just the whole thing.
Me too.
So, yeah, just because of the whole thing. How impressed I was with it all. This one I also will give 5 stars.
Nice!
Hey.
I would love to... I'm not going to say anything. Jamie, what do you say?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be any surprise. This is my favorite of all the Abbott and Costello films. You get 3 heavy hitters here, Universal heavy hitters, which is just awesome, all coming together, including the Wolfman.
5 heavy hitters.
Are you counting Abbott and Costello?
Yeah.
I was just counting. Okay, I'm just counting the monsters. But yeah. So 5 people equals 5 stars for me.
Oh,
nice.
What the fuck on?
This is gonna be a first, man. This is getting 20 across the board. This is just perfect. 20 points straight across the board. I give it a 5. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't give a fuck if Dracula's in the mirror. I don't give a fuck how she found that notebook. This movie is awesome. There's nothing to complain about in any true way, and I don't give a shit about anything that's wrong with it. There's really nothing wrong with it. It's
right. Right.
No, at the end of the day, you got a chick being tossed out a window.
All right, guys. Well, there it was. Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein. If you could listen to this and hear all this shit, and it gets up 20, and I'm gonna post every review we do and all the ratings we give. I'm gonna post them on our Facebook before the show comes out. In case you guys are thinking, I'm not going to bother watching these, I might listen to the show. This will, if you see our ratings, it might get you to watch these because you'll see what you're missing out on. So we'll be right back with the next. We're doing all this stuff in order. The way these movies came out is the way we're reviewing them. The next movie, Boris Karloff was not Frankenstein in this movie. He was just far too old. He couldn't do anything, and he probably looked horrible at this point as Frankenstein. They didn't even consider actually hiring him. For Frankenstein, it was Glenn Strange, but Boris Karloff wanted in on the act. So he is in Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, and we'll be right back with a review of that movie.